All right, so you're here with us because you want to dive deep, but your time is precious,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You want to get to the heart of things without wading through a ton of information.
That's it. We aim to give you that shortcut to understanding something really valuable.
And what really grabbed us this time was this headline, Taming the Beast Within, a common man's guide to mastering reality. I mean, it just pulls you in, right? You can almost picture it.
Yeah, like looking in the mirror first thing in the morning, and there it is, that inner voice, the ego, the one that's always got something to say.
Yeah, exactly. And what we liked about the piece you sent is that it's not some, highfalutin academic paper. It's just one person's experience trying to figure this stuff out.
Very relatable.
Yeah, very relatable. Just a regular person grappling with reality and looking for some tools to make sense of it all. And that's what we're going to do today. Unpack this idea that to really master reality, you got to start by understanding and getting a handle on your ego.
And the author lays out some practical ways to do that, which we'll dig into.
Exactly. So no abstract theories here, just actionable steps you can actually use.
Have you ever felt like your thoughts are just going a mile a minute, or you catch yourself doing things you know you shouldn't, even though some part of you knows better?
Yeah.
The author suggests that might be your ego calling the shots.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's break this down. When the author talks about the ego, what exactly do they mean? They use this cool image, the guy in the mirror with bedhead and a smirk.
Right. It goes beyond just being arrogant or self-centered, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's more about that part of us that's totally immersed in the physical world, completely absorbed by our senses. Everything we see, hear, touch, taste, smell is
Yeah.
that immediate sensory experience of being alive in this physical form.
I like that. And the author brings in some really helpful comparisons like the Buddhist concept of monkey mind, that
Mm.
constant stream of thoughts jumping all over the place.
Right. Always chattering away.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there's the scientific idea, the reptilian brain, that part of our brain that's all about basic survival instincts and immediate needs.
Focused on those primal urges.
And even the religious idea of temptation, that force that tries to lead us astray. It's fascinating how this concept of the ego pops up in all these different contexts.
It really does. And the author's main metaphor is super interesting, thinking of the ego as an avatar that we, our conscious selves, are controlling in the game of life.
Okay, I'm with you.
And this avatar, the ego, has been programmed by society, by our upbringing, all these external influences. So it develops its own set of desires and preferences, which can sometimes clash with what we truly want.
So it's like we're playing a character in a video game, and this character has its own built-in motivations that we might not always agree with.
Exactly. And that's where the trouble can start.
So does the author talk about how we can start to see the difference between ourselves, the player, and that ego avatar?
They do. And they point out a key limitation of the ego avatar. It has a really hard time seeing anything beyond its own limited perspective.
Kind of like tunnel vision.
Yeah, exactly. They use the analogy of a dog chasing its tail. The dog thinks the tail is this separate thing it has to catch, not realizing it's part of itself.
Oh, I get it. So it's trapped in its own little world.
Exactly. And the author also talks about these very childlike desires that the ego has. You know, that
Mhm.
craving for instant gratification, like when
Yeah.
you're trying to eat healthy, but that donut is just calling your name.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. That internal battle is so real.
That's the ego in action, wanting what it wants right now. And the author actually calls the ego the main obstacle to connecting with a bigger, wiser part of ourselves.
Which they call the God self, right?
Exactly. It's that deeper intuition or inner wisdom that we often ignore because the ego is so loud.
And then the author brings in that quote from Sun Tzu, know yourself and your enemy. It's kind of a bold statement, right? Putting the ego in the enemy camp.
It is, but it makes you think. And they even describe the ego as using what they call low-vibe nonsense like fear and doubt and, an obsession with those endless cat videos to keep us distracted from what really matters.
Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of this so-called beast, how do we actually start taming it? The author's first tool is meditation.
Meditation, yeah, which the author admits can conjure up images of, yoga moms and monks, but they present it in a much more practical way.
Okay, so how so?
Like a reset button for our minds, which are bombarded with stimulation all day long.
True, and the author mentions some pretty crazy statistics, like we're exposed to something like 4,000 to 10,000 ads every single day.
And on average, we get 40 phone notifications.
Wow, that's a lot. It's
Mhm.
no wonder we feel so overwhelmed sometimes.
Right, and that's where meditation comes in. It's about carving out a little bit of stillness amidst all the chaos.
Creating a space where we can just be.
Exactly. And the author even talks about their own initial resistance to meditation, all the fidgeting and the ego's little voice saying, check your phone, scratch that itch. It shows just how uncomfortable we are with being still.
Yeah, it's true. We're so used to constant activity.
But the author found that by committing to just 10 minutes of stillness every day, they started to notice a shift.
And they use this great analogy of the ego as a hyper puppy that needs to be trained. It's so true. It's like this energetic, attention-seeking part of us that's constantly bouncing off the
That
walls.
needs a little calming down.
Exactly. And the author even talks about leveling up their meditation practice by doing it in a sauna, pushing past the ego's discomfort and really taking control.
And there's more and more scientific research showing the benefits of meditation, things like improved focus, reduced stress, even changes in the brain over time.
Really?
Yeah, and the author also touches on the spiritual side of things, quoting the Bible. Be still and know that I am God, framing stillness as a way to connect with something larger than ourselves, a realm where the ego can't reach.
Okay, so meditation tool number 1. Now, tool number 2 is intermittent fasting, and I know this might sound a bit intense for some people.
Yeah, Kim.
But the author's approach isn't about deprivation, is it? It's about taking control over the ego's desires.
That's it. They make a clear distinction between intentional fasting and just, randomly skipping meals. This is a conscious choice to say not yet to the ego's demands for instant gratification.
Right. And the author's really honest about their own struggles with snacking. Those thoughts. Like, just one more chip. Okay, maybe the whole bag. It makes it so relatable.
We've all been there.
And the way the author describes their journey from just skipping a meal here and there to doing full-on 24, 26-hour fasts, it really shows a commitment to training that impulsive part of themselves. It's not even about the food itself. It's about proving to the ego who's in charge.
Right, like saying, not yet, buddy, you don't control me.
Exactly. And the author quotes, Rumi fasting blinds the body to open the eyes of the soul.
It's a beautiful quote, right?
It is. It suggests that by denying the body's cravings, we can actually gain a clearer perspective, a deeper understanding of ourselves.
And the author also mentions some practical benefits, like feeling less foggy and thinking more clearly, which makes sense if your body isn't constantly focused on digesting food.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the author makes a quick comparison to Ramadan just to acknowledge that fasting has a spiritual significance in other traditions as well.
Right. It's not a new concept by any means.
Okay, so moving on to tool number 3, silence. And this one feels particularly tough in our hyper-connected world. The author even admits to being a talker and highlights how hard it can be to just shut up sometimes.
It is, and they connect this to our very human need for attention, that desire to be heard and seen. They even mention Robert Greene's idea of sneaky narcissism.
Right, we're so used to constant communication, whether it's talking or texting or posting on social media. The ego just loves to express itself.
It thrives on external validation.
So the author decides to do this experiment where they just stop talking completely.
Yeah.
No talking, no texting, nothing. They even tell their roommates what they're doing.
Which must have been a little weird.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And the author really focuses on mornings as their quiet time, resisting that urge to immediately check their phone or start chatting with someone. It's about creating a space for observation without reaction.
Just being present in the moment.
And the author talks about how monastic traditions have practiced silence for centuries, emphasizing how it helps us shift from reacting to the world to consciously choosing our actions.
Becoming more intentional.
Okay, so the final tool, tool number 4, my word is law. This one is all about building self-trust, and the author uses a really simple example, choosing to get out of bed when the alarm goes off instead of hitting the snooze button.
Which, let's be honest, is so tempting.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So how does something as small as waking up on time connect to taming this powerful ego we've been talking about?
It's about proving to yourself that you're in control. Not your impulses, but your conscious choices.
Okay.
And by keeping even these small commitments, you start to build that trust with yourself and with your ego. You're showing that your word actually means something.
And the author talks about shifting from this casual, yeah, sure, whatever attitude to a more intentional one.
Yeah.
Creating a bond between your mind and your body where they're working together in harmony.
Right. It's like building a relationship with yourself based on respect and follow through.
And they emphasize that by mastering these small commitments, waking up on time, keeping promises, even little things like calling your mom or paying back a friend. I think they even give a shout out to someone named Mike.
Sounds like someone owes Mike some money.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
But the point is, by following through on these small things, you're building the foundation for bigger achievements. You're retraining your ego, which is used to empty promises, to understand that your word is law.
You're establishing a track record of reliability with yourself, and that can be incredibly powerful.
So the author wraps up by saying they were looking for practical tools, not some vague manifestation tips. And they present these 4 tools meditation, intermittent fasting, silence, and keeping your word as the kryptonite for the ego.
It's like a recipe for taming that inner beast.
Exactly. And the author's ultimate goal is to get to a point where we can actually play with reality.
What an awesome concept, right?
It is. It's
Yeah.
about moving from feeling like we're at the mercy of our circumstances to becoming conscious creators of our own experience.
Shaping our reality instead of letting it shape us.
And there's a real urgency in the author's message too, right? They say time's a myth anyway, and now is all I've got. It's a call to action to start this inner work today, not tomorrow or someday.
Absolutely. No more waiting for the perfect moment.
And they end with this powerful image of looking in the mirror and asking, who's with me? It's like a challenge to step up and take control.
So, to sum up what we've learned from this deep dive, the author believes that mastering your inner world specifically by understanding and managing your ego is the key to influencing your outer reality.
It's about becoming the master of your own internal operating system.
Exactly. And the 4 tools they explore are meditation for cultivating stillness, intermittent fasting for controlling desires, silence for observing without reacting, and keeping your word for building self-trust.
And now we want to turn it over to you, our listener.
Mm.
Which of these ego-taming tools speaks to you the most right now?
What's one small step you could take today to start observing or challenging your own inner beast?
Think about how a deeper understanding of your own internal landscape could change the way you experience the world around you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you some valuable insights and maybe even inspired you to explore these ideas further in your own life.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.
Bye.